Hello and welcome to the City of Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is composed of volunteer citizens appointed by the City Council. The Commission is a designated hearing body for a range of land use applications, including general plan amendments, rezones, conditional use permits, and amendments to the zoning code. Upon recommendation by the Commission, general plan amendments, rezones, and zoning code amendments proceed forward to the Peoria City Council for final action. For conditional use permits, the Commission will make a final decision subject to appeal. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedure requirements to allow an impartial and efficient hearing, and all Commission meetings are open to the public under the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. Once called, City staff will give a presentation of the case, followed by a presentation from the applicant if they so desire. After the applicant's presentation, members of the public who have submitted a speaker's request form will be called to speak by the Commission Chair. The applicant may be called to provide additional information, clarification, or a rebuttal. The Commission will discuss the case, may ask additional questions, and take action. Any member of the public wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant at the end of the dais. When speaking, please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes and try not to repeat statements already made by others. We welcome your comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation.
There we go. Thank you. It's a little loud. Welcome, everyone. I would like to call to order the July 16th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission. The time is 6:02. Clerk, please call roll call.
Madam Chair Villasenor,
Present.
Vice Chair Gaynor, Vice Chair Gaynor, Vice Chair Gaynor is present on the phone. For some reason, he is not able to speak through. My apologies. Moving on, Secretary Cottrell, Commissioner Agia. Present. Commissioner Fighter, Commissioner Hutchinson,
Present.
and Commissioner Waitman-Powell. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on, the next item is the consent agenda.
Gaynor is here, sorry. Gaynor is present, sorry.
Welcome. We also have Commissioner Waitman-Powell walking in.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt again. It's really hard to hear on the online. Is there any way that the team could get up the volume on the internet, on the connection?
We're getting a thumbs up, Commissioner Gaynor. So he's working on that. Thank you. Okay, welcome. The next item is the agenda, or the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. We have, 1C, disposition of absence, and 2C, minutes from the June 4th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Waitman-Powell, I move that we accept the consent agenda as is. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Commissioner Ugia seconds. Commissioner Waitman made a motion to approve. Do I have a second with Ugia? Commissioners, please vote.
A virtual aye. Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. To all those in the audience, this beautifully remodeled council chambers is almost perfect. We're just working through some kinks because it is recently open. So thank you for bearing with us through some of these hiccups today. The first item, we will move on to the regular agenda. The first item is item 3R, a rezoning request for the Treviso Mixed Use Project, case Z26-02. Staff, please present.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Jacob Pereira, and I'll be presenting this case to you tonight. Treviso Mixed Use Rezone Request Z2602. The applicant for this rezoning request is Adam Baugh of Withy Morris Baugh on behalf of K. Avnanian Homes. The subject site is an approximately 22-acre vacant parcel located on the southeast corner of Lake Pleasant Parkway and Yearling Road. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from Suburban Ranch, SR 43, to Planned Area Development, PAD. The PAD zoning designation would allow for a mixed-use development that consists of 50-lot detached single-family subdivision on about 15 acres with a 6-acre commercial center that fronts Lake Pleasant Parkway. Now, before diving into the development proposal, I want to provide some history and context to the site. So the site was annexed into the city in 1989 and was then subsequently rezoned to SR 43 Suburban Ranch in 1991. Now, as often is the case with this site, the SR 43 zoning district often functions as a holding district until such time the parcel is ready and available for further entitlement or development. A recurring topic over the last year has been the Arizona State Land Department's mission to manage state trust lands in a way that maximizes their long-term economic value. When these lands are eventually sold or leased, the revenue generated supports the beneficiaries of the state trust, which is a primary mechanism for funding our state schools. On that note, this site was historically a state trust land holding and was part of a larger state land auction in February of 2025, consisting of 72 acres. That's inclusive of this subject site, as well as the site to the east. You'll see that within the purple hashed boundary on that exhibit there. Now, the elephant trunk-shaped parcel might look familiar to you. This site was entitled under a recent entitlement case, zoning case called Treviso in January of this year. Not to be confused with the case we're discussing tonight, which is Treviso Mixed Use. So the entitlement and subdivision to the east has been renamed to Verena. You'll see that on the future exhibits here. So to characterize the site, it is an infill parcel situated between existing residential and commercial uses. And it's constrained by a wash corridor along its eastern and southeastern boundaries, as well as a hillside area on the northwest corner of the parcel. As it sits today, the site is vacant and undeveloped, with existing single-family to the north, the Querencia subdivision, planned single-family to the east, the Verena subdivision that we mentioned earlier, and existing commercial centers to the south and to the west across Lake Pleasant Parkway. In the south, you've got Lake Pleasant Crossings, which is anchored by Fry's and Lowe's, and across Lake Pleasant Parkway, you've got shops at Lake Pleasant and Lake Pleasant Town Center. Lots of Lake Pleasant going on. So let's dive into the development proposal. Now, as a mixed-use development, this proposal consists of two components, a residential subdivision and a commercial center. The residential component would consist of a gated community with 50 detached single-family two-story homes. The minimum lot size for these homes would be 3,600 square feet. Now, in your packet, you may note that a 4,000 square feet lot area is identified. I will dive into why this number has changed in just a few moments. The proposed density for this residential subdivision would be 4 dwelling units per acre, and it serves as a transition from the existing and planned residential to the north and to the east, transitioning to the higher intensity commercial along Lake Pleasant Parkway and then the surrounding area. You've got residential densities to the north, Querencia of 1.63 dwelling units per acre, and to the east, 2.5 dwelling units per acre. Once again, the proposed net residential density for this application is 4 dwelling units per acre. Now, the commercial component. The base district for the commercial component is the city's intermediate commercial, C2 zoning district. However, the PAD, to better align with the mixed use intent of the underlying general plan land use designation, The PAD limits the site to a single drive-through use, and it prohibits automotive-related uses. So the commercial component is intended to be anchored by a specialty grocer, and the use restrictions are designed to encourage businesses that would provide goods and services to the surrounding neighborhoods, while also promoting both pedestrian and vehicular connectivity between both the residential and the commercial components. The site would be accessed from 2 access points, both proposed off of Lake Pleasant Parkway. Now, diving into open space, the city has a minimum requirement that 15% of the site be preserved as natural open space, serving the purpose of preserving natural features that may exist on the site. In this instance, that would be the hillside area within the northwest corner, as well as the wash corridor that abuts the southeast and eastern boundaries. You can see those on the exhibit shaded in dark orange. The applicant here actually proposes a minimum of 16%. Which would total to 3.39 acres of natural open space. Within the residential component, specifically, the city has a minimum requirement of 10% to be provided as activated usable open space. This is what you would see as your programmed amenity areas, with the intention of being activated and usable for residents. The applicant is proposing a minimum of 12%, 1.81 acres of usable open space within the residential component. In regard to amenities, you'll see some letters there on that exhibit, A, B, C, and D. So Area A represents a shared amenity that's proposed to be shared between the commercial and the residential component. And Area C is a amenity node that's proposed specifically for the commercial component. B and D would be pocket parks or other open space areas that are activated through the residential piece. In addition to open space and amenities, there are 3 trail connections that are proposed to the trail along the wash corridor that sits in the southeast, and improvements to an existing trail within the hillside area that exists in the northwest corner of the site. These are represented in those orange lines. Additionally, there are concrete pathways, which are represented in light blue, that provide connection throughout the site and also provide connection to Lake Pleasant Parkway. So, staff's analysis. When we evaluate a rezone request, a key component of our evaluation is consistency with the general plan land use designation. The general plan designation for this site is mixed-use neighborhood village, which is intended to accommodate higher intensity, pedestrian-oriented development with neighborhood-serving commercial uses. The general plan supports a residential density of 12 to 20 dwelling units per acre, and the applicant has proposed a net residential density of 4 dwelling units per acre, or if you encompass the entirety of the site, both components, it would be 2.3 dwelling units per acre. The general plan does identify that lower densities may be appropriate when they act as a transition from existing lower density residential in the area. This proposal preserves a transition and preserves the general plan's intent in that nature. Additionally, the development is designed to preserve sensitive natural features and maintain compatibility with the surrounding area. So the PAD zoning district, as you're aware, is a zoning tool that can be utilized to create tailored development standards for sites with unique conditions or constraints. As such, tailored standards are proposed for the residential product to allow reasonable development of the site, taking into consideration a few things: the differing densities that surround the site, the natural open space areas that must be preserved, as well as still having area to dedicate to commercial development along Lake Pleasant Parkway. These tailored standards would permit a minimum lot size of 3,600 square feet, with the proposed home product being 2 stories with a maximum building height of 30 feet. Now, earlier I mentioned that there was a change in the proposed minimum lot size from what's represented in your packet. So upon review of the associated preliminary plat application, it was recently brought to light by engineering staff that roadway design changes were needed to meet the city's minimum requirements in terms of roadway width and fire truck turnaround. The changes that were made to meet these engineering and fire requirements had a downstream impact on the proposed lot size. So you'll see here, originally proposed was the minimum lot size of 4,000 square feet, with a typical dimension of 40 feet by 100 feet. So to accommodate those design requirements, the lot depth was shortened by 10 feet, resulting in a 3,600 square foot minimum lot size. I want to note that no modification to lot count, density, or home product type are required for this change. Additionally, when we receive a rezoning request, a traffic impact analysis is required. So the applicant did provide one with their submittal, and it was reviewed by traffic staff and meets the acceptable levels of service in accordance with city standards. We do have representation from our traffic division here tonight, so should the commission have traffic-specific questions, they are here. As mentioned earlier, there are 2 access points proposed for the site. Currently, the intersection of Lake Pleasant Parkway and Yearling Road is a 3-legged intersection. This development would complete that 4th leg, providing a full access drive to and from the site on that northern end. The southern access point would be limited to right-in, right-out traffic. Gated entry is also proposed for the residential development. Additionally, in review of the proposal, engineering staff found that utilities that exist adjacent to the site have sufficient capacity to serve in terms of water and sewer. Now, this application was noticed in accordance with city requirements, so a notice of application and a notice of hearing was sent to landowners within 600 feet and HOAs within 1 mile of the site. A legal ad was also published in the paper, and the site was posted per city requirements, providing guidance for the hearing tonight. At this time, staff has not received any written opposition or support for the project. The subject site is located within the Peoria Unified School District boundary, and students that are generated from this development would attend Frontier Elementary School and Sunrise Mountain High School, respectively. As part of the application's review, staff does reach out to the school district, providing the application information and an opportunity to comment. The school district did respond and identified a declining enrollment over the last few years and that the district is aware of the project and in favor of its approval. This correspondence is in Exhibit 8 of your packet. Now, with rezoning requests, there are additional outreach requirements. So the code requires a minimum of 1 neighborhood meeting, and that includes a site posting and a letter notification from the applicant to that similar notice that we identified earlier. The applicant for this project hosted 2 neighborhood meetings. The first was in April 2nd with 5 attendees. The second was on June 3rd with 15 attendees. Discussion topics across both meetings were pretty consistent. Related to privacy, proximity to the existing residential, the proposed density, home product type and quality, as well as concerns with traffic. In response to the concerns, the applicant did visit adjacent neighbors to the north to get an understanding of their privacy concerns on a ground level. And at the second neighborhood meeting, presented an updated development plan as well as a line of sight exhibit. So taking a look at the original proposal here on the left, you can see that 57 lots are proposed. The revised development plan shows the removal of lots 51, through 57, expanding the footprint of the commercial component. You can see that circled in white. I want to bring attention to the northernmost lots adjacent to Querencia, lots 11 and 22. So as I mentioned, the applicant did provide a line of sight exhibit at the second neighborhood meeting to identify the grade differential between the 2 properties. So I'll show that here next. So this is adjacent to lot 11. You can see that the the grade differential between the 2 lots from lot 11 to the most adjacent Querencia lot is about 14 feet. And measured from the proposed home's side elevation to the existing rear yard wall is about 35 feet separation, minimum. Similarly, in lot 22, the grade differential between the 2 lots would be about 18 feet, with the distance between the proposed side elevation to the existing rear yard wall being a minimum of 30 feet. So to summarize staff's key findings, the development proposes a residential density that's well below what would be allowed under the general plan at 4 dwelling units per acre. This allows the site to act as a transition in intensity from the adjacent neighborhoods to the existing and proposed commercial along Lake Pleasant Parkway and in the Four Corners area. The PAD does seek to preserve the mixed-use neighborhood village intent of the general plan by restricting specific commercial uses and attracting commercial uses that would provide goods and services to the surrounding neighborhoods. Overall, the development plan is designed to be compatible with the adjacent neighborhoods while still preserving natural features. With that, Commission has 4 options in consideration of this application tonight. The first would be recommend approval in part or with modifications, recommend denial, or continue the action to a later date. Given the findings, staff recommends approval of Z2602 to the City Council, subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit 1. Staff and representation from the applicant are here tonight for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Commissioner Waitman-Powell.
I do. Of course, I have questions and comments. Wonderful presentation, Mr. Herrera. I think that was very in-depth and very elaborative, so thank you. There were a few things that I noticed. I was looking at the slide that showed, I think it was the Curencia neighborhood. I think about 6 to 9 homes would be closest to this project, and so how many feet, like, we have to pull it up, yes. Perfect, that's, last slide, back to the last slide. So that's about 6 homes. What's the distance? How many feet between those homes and the project?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that's a great question. So the average distance it varies across the tract. So between the most western lot, lot 11, the distance is a minimum of 30 feet, 35. And adjacent to lot 22, it's 30. And so if you imagine the street past that tract, it would be, I presume, 45 to 50 for the remainder of the lots.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's only 6 directly impacted, and the rest is kind of moving away from the project. That's great. My next observation is it sounds like there has been declining enrollment, and so I appreciate the fact that PUSD did send a letter or made communication with being in favor of this. Is there an estimated, I guess, increase of enrollment that we can see depending on how many homes are within, how many units are within this project? Do we know?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Waitman-Powell, that falls outside of the scope in terms of the zoning request. We consult the school district, but to have specific numbers of how many students necessarily would be generated isn't within this scope of review.
Absolutely. I know that, but I figured I'd ask since they have seen a decline, so that's great. From my comments are, from what I can see is the retail can use the residential density. There is a lot of retail around, and it's being mixed use, and so it looks from my point of view that I believe we have a Fry's, there are different uses there, and they can use that residential density. So thank you. Very elaborative report. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? I have a quick question. If you could remind me on the old Treviso, the one that's already gone through, the homes that border this proposed project, are those 2-story or 1-story? I don't recall.
Madam Chair, those are 2-story homes that would be directly adjacent
Perfect.
east. The 1-story homes are along 95th Avenue.
Thank you for
east.
the reminder. Awesome, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, pardon me, I do have one more question for staff, if that's okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Please.
This will be regarding the traffic study. There was a traffic study done. Please share your analysis. Is there an increase in trips? I think I seen, there was a slide that kind of showed what that traffic study entailed. So is there analysis that the traffic engineering department gave?
Yes, Madam Chair and Commission Member Waitman-Powell. A traffic study was completed by Y2K on behalf of the project, though staff's involvement in discussion of access and consideration for access to the site long preceded the development itself. The access has provided a single right-in, right-out that is median separated, so controlled, unlike some cases where you may have what we call a pork chop island where vehicles can cheat around it if they choose to. Since there's a raised median, it is going to be strictly enforced as a right-in, right-out. And we were very happy to be able to tie in that fourth leg to an existing traffic signal rather than creating a new full access location that didn't meet our access requirements. So access at this location really is ideal from my perspective. It does generate more traffic, of course. All developments do, especially with the increase in the commercial component. There's an expected number of trips of about 6,000 per day, which is just a little under than 500 during both the AM and PM peaks. But there is ample capacity on Lake Pleasant Parkway, both for this project and many other projects to come for quite a few years out.
Thank you so much. Just one quick follow-up question. What's the current trip, I guess the current trips that are generated at the moment? The increase would be about 6,000. So what do we currently see on Lake Pleasant Highway?
Lake Pleasant, Commission Member Waitman Powell, I am waiting for my newest counts. I want to say we're around 22,000, but please don't quote me on that. The good news is that we know the capacity for a parkway like Lake Pleasant Parkway would actually be 60,000 vehicles. We have the ability to widen out to a third lane in each direction based on some of our recent studies that are, it's assumption based on assumption piled upon assumption. We don't know precisely when we'll need to widen from 2 to 3 lanes, but we can easily do so by using that extra space within the median. We think that's going to be somewhere before 2040, but we aren't precisely sure when.
Thank you. I know that you are very passionate about that. It's a wonderful report, and so I'm happy to hear that we could hold up to 60,000 trips, and that kind of put things in perspective as we continue to look at projects. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Great questions. Commissioner Ugia?
Thank you. And thanks for bringing up the issue with traffic, because recently there's been a couple of fatalities in not only on Lake Pleasant Parkway, but also on Happy Valley. So we're going to see an increase of more traffic going up and down Lake Pleasant Parkway. What are the plans to make sure that public safety needs are being met in that area?
Chairperson Villasenor and Commission Member Igia, that's a very deep question. We could actually talk for quite a long time, but I can give you a quick summary. Mike Faust has assembled a team consisting of traffic engineering and police to talk about strategies to address traffic safety, which would be accomplished through a combination of education, enforcement, and thoughtful engineering design, both in short-term and long-term strategies. In addition to that, the city has been awarded an SS4A, Safe Streets for All grant from the federal government to create a safety action plan, a citywide safety action plan, so we can look at safety across the entire city and prioritize properly where we should be focusing our attentions at the priority locations throughout the city.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Is there any conversation in increasing the number of staff as this city continues to build? Because what we're seeing in other cities, they're growing very quickly, and the public safety officers and firefighters are not growing with the size of the city. So we're starting to see a decrease in response times. And just my personal experience, I think with more officers, more firefighters being out on the streets, it helps with traffic and reduce accidents and whatnot. Just wasn't sure if that was part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
We have a guest speaker in the house. Please state your name.
Madam Chair. See if it works. It doesn't work, but I'll talk loud enough. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, thanks for the opportunity. Mike Faust, City Manager. Didn't come here to answer that question, but I'm very glad that you did answer the question because, as Brennan has said, we've been working diligently. Many of us live in that area, and we know firsthand, how Happy Valley seems to function like a freeway more than a arterial roadway at times. And so if you live in the area, one of the first things you should see present today more so than you did even 30 days ago is a heavier police presence. So we have taken a very targeted approach to position both motors and patrol vehicles there. In fact, I saw 2 people pulled over this morning, so I slowed down myself coming down 83rd Avenue. But there's a couple of facets that fit into it, and as Brennan said, we could sit in here for a couple of hours, but the reason I wanted to definitely stand up and add comment is the response times in Peoria have actually dropped over the last 2 years. So where we were averaging, upwards of 5 minutes of response time from PD, we've had a couple of months in the 3.5 minutes. Part of that is through a very directional, specific approach by our city council to add sworn officers. We've added roughly 30 sworn officers in the last 3 fiscal years. So that's step one. Step two, we will continue to look at staffing as it fits and is appropriate, but as our city grows, over 210,000 people, you cannot continue to solve everything with people. And so our law enforcement team has been very mindful to introduce technology. And one of the ways to do that is introduction of drone as first responders. So we have in pilot now 4 drones that are located at 2 different locations in the city, and when called upon, will autonomously respond to areas. That helps with emergency response. A lot of different ways to put eyes on, and we can have an autonomous camera essentially on a scene within 90 seconds, depending on where it's within the city. So that will be something we continue to look at to expand in addition to the headcount. The other thing we are deeply evaluating, and this could be a sensitive topic in the community, so we're weighing into it very carefully, which is a targeted approach for photo enforcement, where I'm not the biggest fan for photo enforcement. We need to change driver behaviors. This is completely a driver behavior issue in the way people speed and the way people move up and down those roadways. And so we are contemplating a 2-year pilot that would look at very targeted locations for possible enforcement, one of which is school zones. That's one place that's near and dear to the council's heart as well as mine, of how do we make sure we control safe driving in those areas. But then also very specific areas like this on Happy Valley Road and very specific locations from Deer Valley Road up to the 303 on Lake Pleasant Parkway. These are areas where we see really, I'll say, aggressive driving behaviors, and partly because the roadways are wide. We ask the question all the time of what is the capacity of the road? The capacity of a 6-lane road like Happy Valley is significant, but because the capacity is not met, there's no friction in the system to slow people down so they drive expeditiously. So we are going to take, again, the enforcement approach, which using data to position our officers in the right place, continue to seek support from the council to put the right amount of officers in, to continue to look at technology like drone as first responders and other avenues like that to reduce the demand of head count but still have a presence. And then thirdly, to bring in possible targeted photo enforcement in order to be able to curtail negative driver behavior.
No, thank you, I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, hearing none. I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any comment cards?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. I will now close the public hearing. And I apologize, Commissioner Gaynor, you're on the phone. Did you have any questions for staff?
You know me well, I would have jumped in.
I figure you would have, but
Covered very well.
yeah, I do remember you're there. I apologize.
It's all good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, this concludes the public testimony. I now close. Commissioners, if there are no further comments or questions, can I get a motion on item 3R?
Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend approval of case Z2602 to the City Council, subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit 1.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Hutchinson made a motion to approve and seconded by Commissioner Achia. Commissioners, please vote. And Commissioner Gaynor, please vote verbally. Thank you.
My apologies, technical difficulties. I'm not seeing the vote.
Madam Chair, if it is a unanimous vote at 5-0, I believe.
You can see that?
Let's do a roll call if we would instead. Madam
Great.
Chair,
I support. Aye.
Commissioner Gia,
I support it.
Commissioner Waitman-Powell,
Yay, I support.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Aye.
Commissioner Gaynor.
He had verbally said aye
affirmed.
earlier.
Madam Chair, that would be unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next items are 4R and 5R for the El Mirage and Forest Pleasant Place project. The associated case numbers are GPA 26-01 and Z25-26. Staff will be presenting these items together. However, each item should be voted on separately. Staff, thank you.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Thank you for identifying that. As you referenced, we will be presenting these together, but looking for 2 separate votes. My name is Cody Gleason, Planning Manager with the City of Peoria, and we will be looking at both a minor general plan amendment as well as a rezoning tonight. So the case is brought before us by Tiffany and Bosco on behalf of DR Horton. The site that we're looking at is referenced with the name El Mirage and Forest Pleasant Place, but is actually located just north of Lone Mountain Parkway, north of the northeast corner of El Mirage and Lone Mountain. The site itself is approximately 74 acres, and what the applicant is seeking, and I'm getting a little bit of echo, so hopefully I'm not bothering anybody's ears, but the minor general plan amendment would seek to increase the suburban residential land use designation on the site by about 4.8 acres and increase the park open space designation on the site by about 31 acres. And we'll go over in a little bit more detail exactly how you get to those numbers. But ultimately, the development seeks to provide for 154 single-family attached homes on the site. So as I referenced, the general plan amendment is seeking a change to the land use designation. So currently on the site, there is the land use designation of suburban residential, public uses, and park open space. What this application is looking to do is really revise the suburban residential so that it conforms more so to the developable area, and revise the public uses land use designation so that it is then additional park open space. That revision to the suburban residential really is seeking to provide finite information that we didn't have before when we provided the overall general plan revisions back in 2019 and 2020. We now have more precise information, so they're simply looking to recapture that developable area adjacent to the wash corridor that was previously indicated as park open space. As we continue on, you'll see the public uses location up in the northeast corner of the site, and ultimately that is being redesignated as park open space so that we can better recognize the actual conditions on the ground. There's not going to be a public facility there. It will simply be natural open space, and the applicant's looking to recognize that on the plan. Item 5R is a rezoning request. The site is currently zoned SR 43, which is Suburban Ranch 43. All that means is 1 acre homes or 1 acre lots for single family homes. That's a typical zoning district that we see. Both ag and SR 43 are commonly referred to as holding districts. And ultimately, when property is annexed into the city, it generally sits in that zoning district until such time as development is sought on the site and rezoning requests are made. In this case, they are seeking to rezone to a planned area development. As Jacob had discussed in the prior case, ultimately that is a customizable zoning district, and the purpose of it really is to provide for context with the surrounding environment as well as any existing development in the area. So we talked about this site. Obviously, this site is vacant. To the north of this site, just off screen here, is the tail end of Lake Pleasant Heights Mystic Parcel H. There is a cul-de-sac that terminates just off screen as a part of that subdivision. Continuing clockwise to the east, you have a vacant area that is currently held by Arizona State Trust land, which this parcel was as well, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But ultimately, that is currently vacant, which is also zoned SR 43. To the south of the subject site is a portion of the Vistancia development. It is parcel D1, and that is currently developed as single-family residential immediately to the southern boundary of this. West of the subject site, you have El Mirage Road, and then beyond El Mirage, you have another portion of Vistancia, which is Blackstone at Vistancia, and that is single-family detached homes as well. So we've talked a little bit about the surroundings for the site, Lake Pleasant Heights and Vistancia. Ultimately, those are gigantic master plan communities. They have a variety of uses and designations within them, but ultimately in this area in particular, and generally across most of those developments, what you find is single-family residential homes. This site in particular, as I referenced, is located along El Mirage Road. This is a, hopefully I'm using the right term, but mid-block configuration along El Mirage Road. It does not have an immediate intersection to provide additional access. The only access to the site would be from El Mirage. As for the site itself, there are some constraints on the site, and we'll touch on those a little bit more as we're going through and how that informed the development proposal on the site. But ultimately, the area that you see shaded here has significant slope on it, progressing beyond 10, 15, and 20% slopes on the west side of the wash that you see here. With the additional vegetation on the perimeter of that shading. So that wash, though it looks like it kind of hugs the hillside area, ultimately it also has significant impacts on the northern end of this site, and that makes a significant difference for the developability of the northern portion of the site as well. So here we can take a look at the land use designation and the zoning for the site, but as I had referenced, the site was state land. It was auctioned in August of 2025. So as I had referenced, SR 43 typically acting as that holding district until such time as development occurs. In August, state land sought auction for the site. They felt it had reached its pinnacle value and provided an opportunity for a developer to progress through that auction process and then ultimately come in to seek development entitlements for the site. So surrounding this site, as I'd referenced to the east, is vacant. But has a designation of suburban residential. That particular area has a significant amount of hillside, so that might be yet another refinement that we see in the future that it may not feasibly house that. When you continue south, west, and north of the site, it has that master planned area designation for both Vistancia and Lake Pleasant Heights. On the site itself, as I said, the suburban residential kind of occupies a triangle in the southwest corner which is bounded by the park open space that holds the wash, and then ultimately that public use designation in the northeast corner that the applicant's seeking to revise. As with the land use designations, the zoning somewhat follows that same pattern. The PCD designation for Vistancia covering the south and west portions of the site, the PCD for Lake Pleasant Heights covering the northern end, and then that existing vacant land that's owned by state land is the SR 43 to the east. So ultimately what the site constraints boil down to is of the 74 acres that comprise this property, ultimately only about 24 acres is what they are seeking to develop. And that ultimately translates to a significant amount of natural open space that would remain on the site subsequent to this development. As a part of the development, as I'd referenced, this is about 154 single-family attached homes that are being proposed. And then ultimately what that breaks down to from a density perspective, when you're looking at the overall 74 acres, is about 2 dwelling units per acre. So pretty low considering the size of the area that we are actually looking at here. When you take into account the developable area, so the area that falls within that suburban residential land use designation, you're looking at about 6.5 dwelling units per acre. And to give you a basis of evaluation for that, what the suburban residential land use designation calls for is about 5 to 12 dwelling units per acre. So they fall at the low end of that range, even when you're just capturing the developable area. I apologize, one item to reference. Being that these are single-family attached homes, they are looking for a smaller lot size. And with that lot size, they're looking at about 2,500 square feet for that lot minimum. So with that, as I'd referenced, they're looking to take away that public use designation and simply provide for the feasible areas of the development to be captured within suburban residential, and then ultimately park open space over the remainder of the property. The reason for this goes to the limited developable area within the site because of the hillside constraints on the east side of the wash, and then ultimately the northern portion of the site that makes it difficult as a result of the wash itself. And with that, it aligns with the density that you see immediately within the area. So parcel D1 of Vistancia, the area immediately south of the subject site, you're looking at approximately 2.9 dwelling units per acre. So even though those lots are slightly larger than the ones that we're evaluating here, the density is much greater, almost a third greater than what we're evaluating for this overall site. To the west of the subject site is Blackstone, and that is looking at about 1.4 dwelling units per acre. Keeping in mind, that also has a golf course as a part of that preliminary plat. So ultimately not too far off from that overall density of 2 dwelling units per acre. With the request to PAD, the applicant team is looking to identify tailored standards for the site so that they can accomplish protections for the natural open space that they're looking to provide for, as well as accommodate a feasible development in alignment with that suburban residential land use designation that exists today on the site. The attached single-family residential will occupy the grade area on the site, and then ultimately about 46% of the site ends up remaining natural open space. That the city's minimum natural open space requirement when you get north of Pinnacle Peak and into kind of some of the more difficult terrain areas is about 15%. So they are more than doubling the minimum natural open space provided here. In a recognition of the fact that there will be a significant amount of natural open space, the applicant team is providing a regionally connected trail option within the development bounds, and it would be that darker green line that you see bounding the gray area. That'll provide an opportunity for connection to not only the south, but also El Mirage Road. And as we will touch on, there'll be an opportunity for possible future trail connections to the city network in the northern area that is currently identified as open space. So attached single family is one of those development forms that we don't often see within the city. And the applicant team is looking to provide an opportunity that has limited options within the city currently. And with that, they're seeking to provide an amenity package that kind of blends what we would normally require of multifamily and provide it for a single family development. So most often, multifamily would require a certain minimum number of amenities. Single family does not have that same obligation. Single family only has a requirement for an area allotment of usable open space, but nothing designated as far as what needs to occur within that. In this case, the applicant team is not only providing almost half of the site as natural open space, they're also providing usable open space within the development area and a minimum threshold of the number of amenities. So to give you an idea of what is a primary amenity, what is a secondary amenity, primary amenities would be things like sport courts, community pools. Secondary amenities would be fitness stations, ramadas, benches, those sorts of things. So the applicant's committed to not only that regional trail, but also the amenity package associated with the development. As far as the development form, ultimately the access for the site, as I referenced, is only from El Mirage Road. They are looking to provide two access points, one at kind of the northern end of the developable area, and then one at the southern end. The one at the northern end would be right in, right out only, and then ultimately the southern piece would be full access via a LILO, so that is left in, left out. That would be provided through breaks in the median to allow folks to turn left, go southbound, and then going south to eastbound, left into the site. So the city has certain requirements for public notice. That includes postcards going to all property owners within, in this case, a quarter mile of the site, all HOAs within 1 mile, a sign being posted on the site, as well as an ad being placed in the paper. All of those items were accomplished in association with this application. And additionally, the school district, Peoria Unified, was provided an opportunity to comment on the application itself. We did not receive feedback on this particular application. In association with our community outreach requirements, the applicant's required to hold one neighborhood meeting. In this case, the applicant chose to hold 3 neighborhood meetings in order to provide an opportunity for comment from the public and evaluation of any concerns. Those meetings were held on November 5th, December 9th, and March 30th, 2 of which were held at Lake Pleasant Elementary in Vistancia in the nearby area, and then one, again, nearby in the Mystic Clubhouse. There are about 20 to 30 attendees at each of those, which consisted of residents within the area that had received notice. At the neighborhood meeting, there were several comments received from the public. They covered a variety of items that included loss of views, traffic, crime, property values, building heights. These are common opposition elements that we see with new development going in adjacent to existing residential in the area. As far as support or opposition received with regard to the case, city staff did receive opposition from 19 individuals in regards to the case, and then 3 further inquiries about the case that didn't necessarily state a position in support or opposition. The comments from those opposition letters, again, focused on the same elements as identified at the neighborhood meetings. So ultimately, the applicant team, through those 3 neighborhood meetings and as a result of seeking to work with the residents within the area that had concerns, have reduced the lot count from 200 to 154, so 46 lot reduction for the development. And then ultimately, they more than doubled the natural open space. Initially, the proposal only provided 15%, and as I'd referenced, it's now up to 46% as a minimum. There was also layout revisions, particularly for the southern end of the development. So Vistancia parcel D1, a lot of those residents had comments with respect to the proximity. As a result, the applicant team worked to provide certain setbacks that they hoped would alleviate those neighborhood concerns and address what folks wanted to make sure and protect for their area. In addition, the area that was previously noted as the hillside, that green area in the northeast corner, ultimately the applicant will be donating that to the city in order to preserve that hillside area for future trail and recreation opportunities. As a result, staff's findings are identified here with respect to the minor general plan amendment as well as the rezoning request. For the minor general plan amendment, item 4R, the suburban residential boundary change that is being proposed by the applicant team ultimately seeks to recover finite detail that was lost in a larger general plan effort and recover those developable areas now that we have more detail with respect to floodplain limits and what can be developed. Additionally, it substantially increases the park open space designation on the site and advances a variety of housing options and policies from the general plan itself. Item 5R, findings that the proposed zoning aligns with the suburban residential designation that is over the developable area of the site, providing density in alignment with the parameters of the suburban residential land use designation. Additionally, it provides context-sensitive conditions adjacent to the existing residential within the area by providing those additional setbacks as well as the additional natural open space that exists on the site. As a result, staff recommends that the Planning Commission take action on item 4R to recommend approval to City Council of case GPA 26-01 and separately take action on item 5R to recommend approval to City Council of case Z25-26 subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit 1. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
I'll make the assumption you guys reached out to the school districts and got the same response, reference this area as well.
Chair, Commissioner Agia, we provided the information to the school district and we provide an opportunity to comment. really at the outset of the application, as well as when we are preparing the information for hearing. We did not hear any comments back from the school district on this site in particular.
And just one of the concerns I have is on the south part of the property where the townhomes are gonna be, and they butt up to single-family homes. I know the distance there says it's 45 roadway setback. Is there any way that those townhouses could see into anybody else's property?
Chair, Commissioner Agia, within this development, they are proposing the same building height that is permissible within Vistancia D1, which is the area immediately to the south, and that's a maximum height of 30 feet. There's exceptions everywhere, but for the most part, when you see residential within the city, it has a maximum building height of 30 feet. So it would be no greater allowance than what exists in those adjacent communities. And then the other element of that is there's about 20 feet between the back of the existing homes within Vistancia D1, and then you have that 45-foot roadway setback. And then in addition to that, you have inclusive of that, you have a 120-foot building setback. So you're quite a ways back before you would even have a home that would be close to those properties.
And then just, this is a comment, and I appreciate you guys put together a work group to look at public safety and whatnot, because looking at this area, it's expanding tremendously. There's a ton of growth out there. I ride my bike out there, and going, the further west you go, they've leveled all the land. So I know there's tons of growth out there. I do have great concerns about public safety. Drones are great. We use them in the city I work for, but they are not an officer actually responding on scene. And when something serious is happening, you need that person to actually respond, whether it's an officer or a firefighter. So we're building more and more and putting more and more houses into this area, I think that needs to be really taken under consideration.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Waitman-Powell?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just seconding Commissioner Agia, her points. Our city resources, which we've been very good at doing, need to keep up with our growing city. And I think when we're talking about our first responders, when we're talking about staffing, making sure that these things are allocated as we project into the future in our budget and things that are happening. And so thank you for making that point. I definitely agree, because we are growing and people are moving into our city. It's because we're doing a great job building it and trying to make sure that housing is attainable. But as we grow so rapidly, because I think that people are looking at places such as Peoria, opposed to maybe a Glendale, opposed to maybe a Phoenix, because of what we have to offer. And so I want to make sure that the city that they move in stays the city that we love. I mean, me and my husband, we started our family here because it reminded us of a safe space. This started as a railroad and farming community, right? And we both come from farming families. And so there's certain things that make Peoria, Peoria. And one thing that I love is that my kids can play outside. I know they're going to be good. And I know that the first responders are going to be there in less than 5 minutes if something does happen. And so thank you for that, Commissioner Agia. I just have 2 points of clarification. And so I'm looking at this. So from what I'm understanding, the plan modifications were a 46 lot reduction. And so after the neighborhood meeting and after meeting with neighbors, they decided to go down in 46 lots.
Chair, Commissioner Waitman-Powell, that's correct. They dropped about a quarter of their lots that they had previously proposed. That was through a variety of items, not only evaluating the configuration of the site itself, but also ultimately those elements like the amenities and the open space in order to address those concerns and constraints on the site.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm very happy that, because what I've seen is definitely seen community engagement, right? We've seen an increase from the first meeting to the third meeting that they had. And one thing that I'm a big advocate for is really, when we have these projects, residents, developers, everyone involved in the project working together. And I think what we're seeing is that they're doing that because there's some projects that come before us and there will be no modifications. And so being willing to work and think about those needs and those concerns and kind of work through that, I think I just want to commend them for that. Perfect. I did see, one thing that I like to see is the donation of the hillside area. That was something different. I don't know, donating that land. And so the designation, is that guaranteed natural open space, recreational parks maybe? Is that guaranteed?
So once that land is donated to the city, it would be the city's land, and ultimately, because of the designation within the PAD, the city would have to maintain the intent of that use. So it would allow for things like trails within, and let me just go to the slide so we can have that to look at. So ultimately, the area that you see shaded in green here, that would be available for preservation as natural open space, but it would also provide an opportunity for things like trails so that we can utilize it and enjoy the natural desert beauty.
No, thank you, Mr. Gleason. I mean, I don't know, I just see the vision here, right? I mean, that's a lot of natural open space. And then thinking about a project like this coming before us, the density that comes with it, the residents that may want to use that, I just think it's a very intentional and thought-out process. And so I'm excited to see what the city will do with this donated land. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also excited to see what the city is going to do with that land. So maybe next month we can have a presentation on the trails. I'm teasing. No, it's awesome gesture by the applicant, and I would make a note. Kudos to the outreach team for going from 30 people at a community meeting to, I don't know if we have any speaker cards. Yeah, so great job to whoever did outreach. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, well then I will now open. Oh, I am so sorry, Commissioner Gaynor. Go for it.
I hate to interrupt you, Madam Chair, but
It's okay.
I think that would have kept me out of the comments. So let's, you'll allow me to just say a couple of quick things.
Please.
And I think a lot of the other things were mentioned, also just what to do with the donation and things like that. But, you know, just a great example of what a partnership should look like between the city and the developer and residents. So congrats. I was going to say the same thing about the previous applicant, but just a really good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gaynor. No comment cards, correct?
None.
Thank you. Okay, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, if there are no further questions or comments, I will request a motion on item 4R. As a reminder, we are voting on these separately. Case GPA 26-01.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Waitman Powell, I move that we recommend case GPA 26-01 as is. I know that this is separate, so we're going to go to 5R, but I move our first item.
Do I have a second? Commissioner Waitman Powell made a motion to approve and seconded by Commissioner Gaynor. Commissioners, please vote. Thank you.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioners. If there are no further comments or questions on item 5R, I want to check. Great. May I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve case Z 25-26.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Agia made a motion to approve, and it is seconded by Commissioner Hutchinson. Commissioners, please vote, and Commissioner Gaynor, you can respond verbally.
Yes for me.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you again to the applicant and all your hard work. We look forward to seeing the finished product. Okay, next item, reports from staff. Staff, please present.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, not much to report tonight. We will have several items for you again on August 20th. So we look forward to seeing everybody and making sure that we have a quorum.
And will we have a presentation on park trails? Oh, I love it. I'm getting a thumbs up. Down the road, it would be interesting. I mean, it is something our community enjoys, so thank you.
Madam Chair, it would not be on August 20th, but we will alert the commission when we are moving that item forward. We will invite our partners to join us for that conversation in the Parks Department.
Love it.
And you will see one of our other planners at the table as well. So thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the call to the public for any non-agenda items.
There are none.
All right. Seeing no speakers, I call this meeting adjourned. The time is 7:12 p.m. Thank you.